How's it going, everyone? This is Mike, and it's Monday, which means it's time for Movies from A to Z. And today, the letter O stands for On Dangerous Ground, which is another film noir. This was actually made in 1950, not released until about 2 years later, in February of 1952. Directed by Nicholas Ray, who is a terrific director. Made films like They Live by Night, In a Lonely Place with Humphrey Bogart. He made Johnny Guitar with Joan Crawford. He made Bigger Than Life with James Mason. And, of course, one of my all-time favorites, which is Rebel Without a Cause. So, Nicholas Ray, very good filmmaker. This film stars Robert Ryan and Ida Lupino. I guess Ida Lupino is actually top billed here. Robert Ryan plays a New York City cop named Jim Wilson, who is about to have a breakdown because he is so obsessed with the dark, ugly life that he's living because of his work and all of the criminals and dishonest people and informants that he has to meet, the low life of the city. And he's very lonely. He doesn't have any relationships outside of the men that he works with, whom he likes and respects, but they're all very happily married family men, and he has no one. He lives in a very small apartment all by himself. So his life is very bleak, and he's really headed for a breakdown, and he's obsessed with violence. In fact, he's one of these cops that likes to beat people up to the point where they will tell him anything that he wants, give him any information he wants, and that's how he works. And he's constantly being told, you can't keep doing this, because he actually beats one guy to the point where he goes in the hospital with a ruptured bladder and he's in danger of dying. So Jim is sent away by his superiors to take an outside job in upstate New York and just get away from some of this pressure for a while. They send him up to a small town where he's supposed to help the local officials find a man who has killed a teenage girl. Okay? So he goes up there, and the contrast with the ugly darkness of the city and the life he is living, he gets into this pastoral, snowy, very bright environment, it kind of makes his eyes, open up to something. And he starts this investigation, and he's being helped by the man who happens to be the father of the young girl who was killed, teenage girl, played by Ward Bond in a very good performance. And this man is so angry with the killer of his daughter that he's just obsessed with finding whoever it is and shooting him. And he's waving his shotgun around. He says, I want to be the one to kill this guy. So Jim is kind of taken aback by this anger, and he begins to see something in himself, his own level of anger in this man. So that's part of the transformation that he begins to go through. So they actually find this guy, and they see him, and they're chasing him through the woods. One car is chasing another. Then they're chasing him on foot after both cars crash. And they find themselves at a farmhouse way out in the middle of nowhere, which is occupied by a young blind woman named Mary, played by Ida Lupino, who's living this very quiet, peaceful, very sheltered life. Seems like she's living by herself, but as it turns out, what she tells Jim, the young man who is the killer turns out to be her younger brother, and she's afraid for him because she knows that, well, he's been mentally ill for a long time, and she knows that something bad is going to happen to him, but she asks Jim not to hurt him. And Jim, unlike his violent past, he promises her that he won't. So that's the bare bones of the story. Probably told you too much. It is a very, very good film. Very good performances by both of these lead actors. Plus, a lot of the supporting actors are terrific. As I said, Ward Bond is very good. The young man who plays Ida Lupino's brother is an actor named Sumner Williams, which is a totally unfamiliar name to me. Very good performance. He looks like he's about 19 or 20 years old. Turns out he's Nicholas Ray's nephew, and I guess he played small parts in several of his films, but I never noticed the guy before, never heard the name. And he even worked as an assistant director on some of Nicholas Ray's films beyond that. So that's kind of interesting. There's another name of an actress that some of you may have heard of, an actress named Cleo Moore. Beautiful, voluptuous blonde actress of the 1950s who made a lot of low-budget kind of exploitation films, films with names like Overexposed and Bait and One Girl's Confession. I remember seeing all of these way back in the 70s. Haven't seen them for a very long time. Cleo Moore is a very interesting actress who's kind of a cult name, and I would like to see some of her work now. But anyway, she has a very good scene in the film where she plays a young woman who is kind of a nymphomaniac and is addicted to rough sex. At least that's the implication that comes out from her scene, where Robert Ryan is trying to get some information out of her. He's asking her questions, and she's coming on to him as if she will tell him anything that he wants as long as he gives her rough sex. And by his attitude, he's more than happy to give it to her. Of course, this is 1950, and they had to tone it down quite a bit just with a lot of meaningful looks and some of the dialogue that went between them. But it's a very good scene. She's a really interesting actress, so that's a name you might want to keep an eye out for, Cleo Moore. The film was very good, as I said. It had kind of a troubled production history, and now you have to remember that in the 1950s, Howard Hughes was head of RKO Studios, and he was kind of crazy even then. And he would do this sometimes with a lot of films that he was in charge of. He would keep them sort of away from being released while he sort of tinkered with them and tried to make changes and trying to decide what was right and what was wrong. So this film was actually, as I said, it took 2 years for it to be put together for release, and they went back and they shot other scenes, changed it around completely, and they gave it a romantic ending, which did not make Nicholas Ray happy. He thought the ending looked like a miracle, and he said, "I do not believe in miracles." So in a way, the film that came out, the version that actually came out, he was not happy with. But I actually think it's a very good movie, and I highly recommend it, especially because it's got such great actors like Ida Lupino and Robert Ryan. Robert Ryan is one of those terrific actors that doesn't have to say anything, and you just see all of his emotions in his face. It's just pretty amazing. This is part of the Warner Brothers Film Noir Classics Collection #3. A whole bunch of thin pack movies in this one. And I guess that's all I want to say. On Dangerous Ground, it was based on a novel that had an interesting name, and I just forgot. So let me look up in the Bible here very quickly. It had a very interesting name to this. Hang on, folks. I promise this won't take too long. I don't think. On Dangerous Ground, it was based on a book called Mad with Much Heart. Mad with Much Heart. That's a freaky name for a novel, but I guess, of course, they changed a whole bunch of stuff for the film like they usually do. But okay, directed by Nicholas Ray, Ida Lupino, Robert Ryan. On Dangerous Ground, another really good example of film noir. So thanks for watching, and James and Ian have already put up their videos, and I need to go watch them now. So okay, let me know if you've seen On Dangerous Ground.